Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name's Jordan Shamblin. I'm from a small town in East Tennessee called Riceville. Most people don't know where that's at. I usually just tell them I'm from Athens because nobody knows where that's at. I have two brothers, a loving mother and father. My dad's passed away. He passed away, he died from addiction. His DOC, if you will, was alcohol. And he lost his battle with that, you know. He just never figured out the one and only thing that could save him from that, you know, and that was turning to Jesus. Yeah. And I watched him struggle with that to his grave. So to be here in the program that I'm in and to be here this evening is pretty huge for me. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah, good to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your story and what led you to getting to the program.
Okay, so a little bit of my story. Where do you start? As a young teenager, I started dabbling in drugs. By 14, I did most any drug you could think of. 6 or 8 different overdoses and suicide attempts, probably by the age of 16. And like, I just remember several times just waking up like, oh man, I've done it again. I've done it again. And I dropped out of school and I just had this feeling of just worthlessness, you know, and just hopelessness. Like I just didn't see my life going anywhere. And, but I would trudge on. And there were some very lonely years in between about the age of, from the time my parents got divorced, at about the age of 11, and between there and about 18 was pretty rough for me. Obviously, my mom moved away, and we moved around a lot, but we just had very little supervision, and we just kind of did whatever we wanted, you know. So looking back, it was a really dark time in my life. And I actually knew from a young age, and even my dad used to tell me that I had a call on my life. And he didn't say that I might, he said that I did, you know. So although he struggled with what he struggled with, he was a good man. He was a loving father, and he had a good heart. And he knew the Lord, you know. He just never could figure out how to get away from, you know, his addiction. So I understand his struggle, and it's hard,
yeah,
you know, but I had children. I had my son about the age of 21. That helped some, you know. It gave me some purpose, you know. I love my children. So that gave me some drive for some years. I also have 2 older children that aren't biologically mine that I assisted in raising, you know. I love them just as they were my own. But so that was my drive for a long time. And I did, what's the word I'm looking for? I did just enough to get by. I was still using, I was still drinking myself to sleep most every night, just like my dad had, like I'd saw him do most of his life. So that was normal to me, among other things that I thought were normal, you know.
Right.
But like I said, I always knew I had a call on my life. And in a sense, I was really just running from that. But at the same time, as silly as it may sound, I didn't necessarily know, I didn't have the tools that I feel like that were necessary to have that relationship with God that I've started to build since I've got to true purpose. Mm-hmm. The past couple years were really rough. Me and the mother of my children split up. I lost my children. Her mom has custody of him currently. But like I told you there before, I'd gotten carpal tunnel real bad. Because I just worked so much. I worked like 3 jobs, just doing too much physically, just doing the most. And, you know, your body can just take so much. And so after losing my house and all, and my relationship with my family, and basically throwing all that out the window for drugs, basically, there came a time here, just not very long ago, I guess about 4 or 5 months ago, where like I knew that I could feel that I couldn't put a finger on it, but I was like, something is about to come to an end. And I've got to make a decision, you know. And I would try in ways, I would try not to do drugs and lay around and be sick for a couple of days and just never could accomplish it. And I had tried going to a non-faith-based rehab in the past. It didn't work. And I was about to go again here about, I guess about 4.5 months or so ago. And it came the day for me to leave, and the van was on the way to pick me up. And I was just like, no, I'm not going. I just couldn't find no peace about it because I knew it hadn't worked for me before. I was like, I know there's something out there, you know, that can help me, you know. After not going to the non-faith-based rehab, you know, I was in the garage of a dope house one night, and me and the guy were just sitting there chopping it up. And he's like, have you ever heard of True Purpose Ministries? And like, I just snapped my finger and I was like, dude, that's the one. The hairs on my arms stood up, and like, I just knew it, like as quick as it came out of his mouth, I was like, that's it.
You're at a dope house and the guy you're doing drugs with is telling you about a recovery ministry?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he will meet you exactly where you're at.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, no, I haven't, but I'm pretty sure that's the one. That's why I didn't go to this other one. I was waiting on that, you know?
Wow.
And so the Lord can use you wherever you're at. I had just gotten out of jail, and the Lord had spoke to me in jail and told me some of the things that he wanted me to do. And it involved ministry. He said, I want you to do this. And like, I started kind of looking around, you know, because only once before had I ever just like heard his voice so plainly. And I was like, wow, that's wild. I was like, okay, you know. But I sounded like Moses. I started making excuses, you know. You know, Moses would talk about, you know, I've got a speech impediment and this. And I was like, Lord, well, I'm not qualified, you know. I dropped out of school. I don't have a high school diploma, you know. How do you expect me to do all these things? And he was silent, you know, because he had said he said what he meant. And that's what he does, you know. Yep. He says what he means, and he means what he says. And I was like, okay, I get it, you know. And that silence said everything to me. It was like, oh, you know, I get it. And then as I started really analyzing it in my past, you know, I was like, oh, maybe I am qualified. And that's that spirit of rejection that I'm still dealing with today, some from my past. You know, it's a process, working through some of this stuff, inner healing and whatnot. Man, it's wild. Like, he's put things on my heart about being involved in ministry and stuff, but just in the few things that we do, like we go and we work the games and stuff, you know. I'm doing cash, so I'm working the register one night at the UT game. A pastor had walked up, and I told him my little line or whatever. He's like, oh, that's cool, man. You know, where are you guys from? And I told him, you know, we're from the Maryville campus or whatever. And somehow or another, we got on the subject of CR. And he had been misinformed or had a misconception of what we do at CR. And a lot of these non-faith-based rehabs, like you'll get in a circle, right? And you go around and you introduce yourself. And after you introduce yourself as an addict, you know, and that's what he was getting to. And he was like, I just don't like that part, you know, where I was like, hold up. Just let me stop you right there. I said, I'm a new creation and I'm a child of the Most High God. I said, I'm no longer an addict,
That's
you know.
right.
And I saw his wife, like she got this big smile on her face and her head turned sideways, like, what? You know, there's something different about these guys, you know. And like I've seen that look a few times since I've been here. And it's never when I talk about anything that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
It's always when I talk about what the Lord is doing through me, you know. He's been able to use me basically everywhere we go.
It's amazing.
And even on the campus, you know. I just be minding my own business, just up in the sanctuary, just in the Word, listening to praise and worship. And the guy that cooks our food, he's rolling through there one evening. He's like, hey, man, I want you to know something. He's like, I draw inspiration from that, you know. And I'm just working on my relationship with the Lord, just, you know. But with that being said, if you look at how he was able to use me just a few months into the program, you know, if he's able to use me that way, you know, I mean, he wants to use you, you know, wherever you're at, you know. So that has been a really huge blessing to me. And I feel more blessed, I think, than probably the people that I encounter about it, you know, just being able to share the word and share, you know, what the love of the Father has done for me and where it has brought me and what has brought me out of, you know. Because like I was saying, I've just been here for 3 months. I mean, 3 months ago, I was eating out of dumpsters, sticking needles in my arm.
It's amazing that you said it was just 4 or 5 months ago, maybe, when you were sitting in jail and the Lord spoke to you.
Yeah.
And I can just imagine you're sitting in jail, you made a mess of things,
Yeah.
right? And the Lord says, I'm going to use you in ministry. And I'm sure the thoughts going through your mind were like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And just a few months later, he's using you in ministry,
Just that.
right? And it's such a beautiful picture of how he doesn't need our lives to be all put together. He doesn't need everything to be perfect. He just needs us to say, okay, I'm going to give you my life then and do what you want with it.
Yeah.
And it's not even like you have to study for years and get a degree. And
No.
you just have to be obedient and say,
Yeah.
use me. And he is.
Right.
And that is so cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so, like, if nothing else, if nobody takes anything else from this today, I would just like to say one thing, like, to the people that are locked up.
Yeah.
It's like, I know what it felt like. Like I'd been laying in jail for 12 days when he spoke that to me, and it's hard to understand that that's God's way of loving you right now. You know, it's sometimes it's a tough love, you know, but he brought me out of a life of sin, you know, and despair and just a mess. And when I went to jail, you know what I'm saying, he put me in a safe place, you know.
Yes.
Had I not went to jail, Lord only knows,
Right.
you know, but that is God's divine love that puts you there. I believe that. And there's going to come a day where they're going to say bag and baggage and they're going to call your name. And you're going to have a decision to make. And the devil's going to try to grab you by your throat as soon as you hit that gate. He will. Just don't give in to that. Find a faith-based program if you can and dig in. Mm-hmm. and just try to find out who God really is, because he loves you and he does truly want the best for you, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because he's done wonders for me, and it's just been 3 months. So
Yeah. Just wait.
yeah,
Wait another year from now
that.
and imagine what
Yeah.
it's going to be like. And there's going to be restoration and redemption, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
But all the things you'll do while you're waiting for that, right?
Right.
Every day,
Yeah.
he can use you
Yeah.
in some way
Yeah.
as you grow closer to him.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's a fact.
So I want to just talk for a second about love before we wrap up, because I think that the enemy has certainly done an amazing job of twisting our understanding of what that word is and what it means and what it looks like.
Sure.
And so I always like to ask, what did you think love was? But today, now that you have experienced that gracious love of God, what does it look like to you today? What would the difference be in your definitions of love back then to today?
Okay, I guess my definition of love, you know, then, honestly, from how I grew up and watching my dad work, love, the word love from a man's perspective was almost solely just being a provider. You know, it wasn't really showing the heart of the Father and letting that reflect through you, you know, like a man of God should. You know, he wants us to be compassionate, you know, with our family and let them know that we love them, and not just our family, but just everyone we encounter, really, you know. I don't really know how to put the love of the Father like into really good, you know, into really good words. I don't know how to explain that. I know what it feels like. I try to convey that, you know. I try to mirror that onto others as best I can, you know, but I'm still learning. But it is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
And he does love us, you know.
It's nothing like what you experience in this world, is it?
No.
Yeah, it's almost undescribable.
That, yep.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Well, that's excellent. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you wanted to say to anyone, or any of your story that I failed to ask?
I'm satisfied.
Good. Well, I'm really grateful that you came, especially so new into the program, just your willingness to be able to be used
Yeah.
and to share your story, because I know it's going to reach people out there, especially those sitting in jail or those who are just broken and lost and think God can't use them.
Yeah.
To just say, look at this.
Right.
It's a beautiful story. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.